This episode is sponsored by Hunt a Killer. Yeah, guns and Hollywood. Name a more iconic pair. Today we call this style of gunplay Gun Fu, a portmanteau of guns and Kung Fu. Also called gun kata, is a type of acrobatic, visceral, violent gunplay, brought to the West by films like Equilibrium and The Matrix. Yes, I said brought to, because just like how Kung Fu affected Hollywood fistfights, Gun Fu can also trace its origin back to Hong Kong cinema. In fact, back to a single man, John Woo. Before John Woo burst onto the scene guns blazing, gunfights were a static affair. People looked almost identical between shooting and just aiming. Then comes John Woo, who single-handedly changed the landscape of gunplay movies and turned it into a violent, explosive, and stylish affair. It's not Gun Fu, it's Gun F-U. Today, let's appreciate the works of this evil genius and take a look at how he developed the concept of Gun Fu, one movie at a time. Each time, perfecting a few elements, culminating into one of the most stunning gunfight sequences in the history of cinema. This is the origin story of Gun Fu. Our story begins with A Better Tomorrow. It's a story about a triad member trying to mend his relationship with his younger brother. He decides to retire after one last gig, and as you would expect, things go south. And this shot marks the revolution of gunfights. Instead of the old shoot and kill, John Woo shows the action and reaction in the same shot. This turns a relatively uninvolved action into a visceral explosion. The target flies across the room, physically showing the impact, but also visually indicates when the shot is fired. See, in one static image, you can still feel the blast of power coming from the gun. Now, let's rewind. Notice how the gunman doesn't aim. He unsheathed his gun, and bam! In a John Woo movie, guns are like swords. You have to swing to kill. It's like the bullets are being flung forward. The guns are almost always in motion before the trigger is pulled. See how he punches his gun forward to make the next shot hit harder? There is a force being exerted into the firing. The bigger and louder action, in turn, earns a bigger and louder reaction. Additionally, John Woo's bullets don't pierce a hole in the wall. It fucking explodes. There is a visual consequence to getting hit. In many movies, people fall down and die. But we don't feel that. None of us have died before. But in Gun Fu movies, you see blood gushes out of people's body. This is pain, and we know pain. This emphasis on clarity of action, motion and force, pain and impact are all techniques taken from Kung Fu and Wuxia cinema, two genres that were all the rage in Hong Kong at the time. Even John Woo dabbled in it at one point. Woo essentially replaces all the swords with guns, and the result is magnificent. Gone are the days of one and done shooting. Like a good wuxia fight, you don't just swing once, you pull the trigger a shitload of times. Clearly, John Woo already had a good grasp on what makes a gunfight exciting. A Better Tomorrow became an instant classic, launching a wave of violent gun action films in Hong Kong. That said, John Woo is not a master yet. Sometimes he shows everything in the same frame, a lot of times he doesn't. Sometimes people shoot in striking poses, other times they look like kids with toys. But most importantly, the visual impact only makes a good gunfight. For it to be Gun Fu, you're going to need more style. While we are on the topic of guns, cops, and killers, let's talk about today's sponsor, Hunt a Killer. Hunt a Killer is a mystery subscription box that will put your deduction skill to the test. With each delivery, you and your friends will sift through documents, evidence, and case files, piecing together a larger narrative while trying to crack a case and catch the killer. It's like living out your wildest dream as a detective. And I don't think I've heard anyone mention this, but the documents, they are so well made. Like this envelope with the forensic report. Opening it is like a mini ceremony. If you are into tabletop gaming, you know how much this tactile feeling enhances your experience. Go to huntakiller.com/accentedcinema and use the code CINEMA for 20% off your first box. That's 20% off with the code CINEMA. A mystery is calling. Do you have what it takes to hunt a killer? In 1989, John Woo made another big step forward with his second major classic, The Killer. The film features Chow Yun-fat in the role of a retired hitman. With a more stylish premise, the gunplay is also much more stylized. Guns now have a proper stance, like a real martial art. Quite a bit more striking than what came before, wouldn't you say? It's from this movie on that John Woo made gunfight into a wuxia fight, in both form and spirit. First, the identity of guns has been changed. They went from a simple tool to kill to a weapon of culture. Indeed, guns have a much bigger screen presence in this movie. Going back to any wuxia movies, old and new, weapons are always being brandished. The moment a blade is unsheathed, it is a big deal. John Woo took that and applied it to firearms. Notice how they are pointed at a person's neck like a sword, how they would cross like blades, how people would aim them absurdly close to each other. By doing this, John Woo imbued his guns with the spirit of a wuxia weapon. There is gravitas when a weapon is drawn, and there is a craft behind each shot. To display that craft, the gunners are also changed. Just like how wuxia heroes are intimately familiar with their swords, a good killer shows proficiency with his weapons. You don't just point and shoot, the entire body is in action. Just like a seasoned swordsman, a master gunman can also fend off a horde of enemies. There are strategies to using a gun, but most importantly, there is an art in the fight, a martial art. These are wuxia heroes with modern weaponry. And like all good wuxia fights, you don't shoot to kill, you shoot to flex on your opponent. With that, we have gun and we have food. It's time for John Woo to combine everything he learned. Do I really have to introduce Hard Boiled? Now, that's gun fu. Hard Boiled is a film about a detective and an undercover cop on a mission to bust an illicit arms trade. Right from the premise, the film is rigged to explode. The film's third act takes place in a hospital, with the bad guys holding everyone hostage, while our heroes engage in a 30-minute long shootout. And this legendary 3-minute long take is John Woo's magnum opus, combining everything he had previously learned into a single explosive shot. Every shot and impact happens in the same frame, a key technique to ensure the power isn't lost between cuts. When shot, targets fly across the room, further accentuating the force of impact. The characters hold their guns upright and punches it out when shooting. Even though it isn't realistic or tactical, the physical movement makes every shot dynamic, as if the explosions are caused by punching the gun forward. When shooting, characters pose dramatically, arms extended in the form of a classical martial art. It truly does feel like a wuxia fight, except much more destructive. But there is one more thing, one subtle but essential addition to Gun Fu. In this scene, the detective is holding a baby while fending off attackers. This morbid image of a baby covered in blood is John Woo's thesis statement that violence is beautiful. This romantic combo of guns and deaths would find its way into the works of Tarantino, Luc Besson, even the Star Wars universe, and, of course, if your kill isn't beautiful, it is not Kung Fu. And so, John Woo, standing on the shoulders of giants, created the gold standard for all future gunplay movies. To this day, Hard Boiled remains one of the best gunfight movies in the history of cinema. It was such a big deal in the West, it launched John Woo's Hollywood career. If you can only watch one John Woo movie, this is the movie you should watch. Of course, Kung Fu is just one of the many good ways to shoot a gunfight.
Say hello to my little friend!
Even John Woo himself switches things around all the time. So this is less of a guide on how to shoot a gunfight and more about how to shoot just Kung Fu, small scale, one on many. Even then, some viewers may have noticed we are still quite a way off from this to this. Indeed, this is merely the birth of Kung Fu. With the success of Hard Boiled, Kung Fu became an international sensation, and many other directors, including John Woo in Hollywood, would continue to push the craft forward to new directions. So, join us next time as we explore the history of Kung Fu in Hollywood.